we sort of figure everything related to whether it be harvest weed seed control or capacity or capturing the grain without losing too much. It's all about measuring it with these drop trays, and I want to start with a few stories about that. And the project was to lend them to farmers, and then they had to share their story on Twitter. And there's a Twitter handle called @Harvestloss, which gets used a little bit now, but the project's finished, but we can still sort of use it a bit. So one fella, Darren Ewers, Minganew, borrowed it. It was on a Sunday. He was harvesting on his own. He did a few drops. First drop, he found he was losing, I think, 280 kilos of canola per hectare, and then he adjusted his fan and adjusted his fan too low and got it down to I think about 100 odd kilos per hectare, and then adjusted again, came up a bit and got it to 70 kilos per hectare. And so on his 500 hectares of canola, he saved himself 58 grand just by changing the fan in the cab. That was it. He should have kept going because he could have got lower than that, I think, but he'd had enough and he just said, right, I've done a good job. And he kept going. He had no idea he was losing 280 kilos, right? Because looking on the ground is a waste of time. It really is. I know we all do it, but what we've learnt with these things is you can't tell. Another fella, same story, harvesting canola, older sort of John Deere harvesters, father and son, 2 harvesters. The son put it on, measured 40 kilos per hectare loss. Perfect. I thought, don't know if I should bother measuring the other machine. I think they're set up the same. And then he thought, bugger it, I'll go and measure the other one, put it on Dad's harvester, 200 kilos per hectare loss. Same sort of machine. So he gets talking to Dad, what have you got on your settings? And they're sort of reading all their settings out. It turns out a couple of the settings were different. I think it was fan and concave, and maybe fan, sieve and concave. They were just slightly different. Just tweaked the other machine and got it to 40 kilos as well. I don't know the big figure on that one, but lots of savings. And the last story I'll tell you is that young fella, he I think it was New Holland harvester, put on Twitter chasing some settings for New Holland harvester in barley. And he said, I've used the drop tray and I'm losing 500 kilos per hectare of barley out of the back of my harvester. And amazing. He said, it was a 4 or 5 tonne crop, big crop. And he said, I'm losing 500 kilos, I had no idea. And in fact, I've started with the same harvester settings that I finished my barley harvest with last year. So God knows how much barley I lost last year. And so he, 500 kilos, so then he made some adjustments and got it down to about 150 kilos or something. And he tweeted me again and said, is that enough? And I said, no, it's still too high. How's my maths? 150 kilos of 5 tonne is 3%.
I'll use the calculator, yeah.
It's not 3%, is it? Anyway, it was too high.
That's a bit.
It is 3%. Hey, not bad, eh? And so said, no, you can do better than that. Cereals, you should be 0.5% loss. And he kept going again, got it to 50 kilos and he was happy. And then he kept going, got to 17 kilos loss with the same capacity. And he said, I've gone from losing 500 to 17, and I had no idea I was losing 500. So how did he do it? Well, in that case, it actually turned out that he hadn't calibrated his concave. So what was actually happening at the concave, what was 0, said 0 on the screen. It wasn't 0 in the back end. And so the concave wasn't calibrated. So they calibrated it and then got the settings right and then stopped losing grain and started getting capacity as well.